Weather's picked up a bit though, eh?
Yeah, that kicked up suddenly. We had 40-knot winds for like 4 hours.
It ain't meant to look like that.
Oh my goodness.
It's a bit of a death trap. We left 2 screws sticking out. But this has formed a new sport. We think we should enter this into the Olympics.
I cannot touch a camera because I'm already like covered in sticky glueness.
Honestly, it's kind of unbelievable we've made it to this point.
A bit of luck and hope and just doing the same thing over and over again and seeing if something changes.
Monkeys,
Might work.
monkeys, typewriters.
The big reveal.
At last, here we go. This is it. Check this out.
Last time on Red Seas, we turned our boat around on the dock without any engines so that we could use our boom to lift the second Nanni N4.50 into the boat. We had to make some risers out of wood and fiberglass to become our new engine beds, and we're doing the whole thing against the clock before a huge tropical storm hits us here in Tahiti.
Okay, so the weather has started to pick up a little bit. It's kind of a weird sky today as well. You might be able to see it, but there's kind of really thick cloud, and then areas where the clouds are really low and other areas where they're really high. So not a lot of sunlight coming through. And the swell in here, again, kind of strange. You might not be able to make it out, but way over there in the distance, you can see the breaking waves. That's what's beyond the reef. But because it then comes over the reef, it becomes this really short, sharp chop. I'll give you an idea what that looks like with our neighbor, because it's a bit easier to see on another boat. So it's literally a short, sharp chop that just bounces around on the side of the boat, and it makes it quite uncomfortable. The good news for us, we're sat here on the dock, right? And we are currently being squeezed onto the dock by the wind because the wind is pushing us that way. Problem with that is we don't have very good fenders. So we spoke to the guys in the marina, and they have helpfully agreed to run us new ground lines, which is what these guys are doing right now. They've been diving in to run lines all the way from over there on the fuel dock to come across here to tie onto our cleats on this side, and that'll pull us away from the dock, take a bit of the pressure off the fenders, and hopefully kind of just hold Indioko in this kind of mid-space. All right, so there's our ground line. Not quite what I was expecting, but I'm not sure if they're now going to tension up that side and we let off the other side, or quite how we negotiate this. Because yeah, we're not yet off the dock, so this won't actually work for us. So yeah, the guys have dragged the line from the fuel dock on the other side all the way across the channel, so I hope no one deep comes in to top up on fuel.
So now with our ground lines on the other side, we're going to loosen our lines on the dock, and hopefully Indy will just kind of move sideways into the channel a little bit. And then I think we might have to tighten up the ground lines a little bit more. But yeah, hopefully we'll sort of gradually move out and be a little bit safer.
See, we only have one plank left that's long enough, and it was what we were using to rest the engines on as the skids to bring them in. However, we have had one snap on us. And also, I just realized, having used this a few times, it's a bit of a death trap. We left 2 screws sticking out, and they're like 2 inches long.
Yeah, they're quite beastie. So
we might want to take them off, I think.
There's a fun extra challenge to a cyclone.
Well, you got to make things challenging in life. It's got to be fun. Where's the fun in it?
Where's the drama?
And it's also quite a narrow plank.
And quite bendy.
And very bendy.
I decided that one step on the plank with your hand on the boat, and then if the plank disappears, you can still be left dangling off the stanchions.
So we might have to come up with another plan.
So interesting being in the marina, because we're kind of so much more aware of everybody around about us and all the preparations that are going on. So we had one, the first of these 3 tropical depressions came through yesterday afternoon, and we saw the crazy rain and we saw the wind, and we had another gust of kind of 30, 35 knots last night blowing us onto the dock. And now we've got 2 days where it's overcast and a bit squally, but nothing too horrendous until the really big one comes through. Sort of the second and third systems would join together, and in a couple of days they're going to arrive. So everyone's had like a little taste of what's to come, and now everyone's like doubling down on their preparations, just checking that their boat's okay, taking things down, doubling up on lines. You've got people buzzing in and out in dinghies to buy extra lines and anchors and fenders and all sorts of things. So it's an odd kind of sense of anticipation, and I'm just trying to distract myself by all the fiberglassing that I still need to get done.
So we're just making a few small adjustments to our ground line situation because we found ourselves suddenly quite close to the dock again. We obviously slipped a bit on the line we were tied to. But this has formed a new sport. We think we should enter this into the Olympics. They're doing the surfing Olympics here next year, but I reckon, or this year.
This year?
But I reckon they should add this in. Can you do it?
I'm just being lazy and I don't want to have to walk all the way down onto the dock to put an extra wrap around the cleat. So I think I could probably kind of whip it around from here.
This is attempt number
1. Oh! You don't believe I could do that?
That's because it's attempt number
It kind of knotted up.
Attempt number 6.
Kind of.
Oh, that's
I've
not
not
going to
got
work.
them in a
That's
nice order, but
some kind of amateur hour going on here.
But I've
That's
got
not
them
gonna work at
round.
all. What are you talking about?
it's beautiful.
That's awful. This giant storm is coming tonight. And so we've decided that for some strange reason, it's a good idea to finally install one of our 2 engines. The other engine is just sat on the old engine beds. However, Bryony has been working her guts out building all 4 of these risers, and they're now finished. They're fiberglassed, epoxied, marine ply. They are heavy and dense and solid. So we're going to take them down, glue them in place, and all being well, you're going to see you're going to see 1 fully installed engine by the end of the day.
Yeah, so this is just going to be a bit of a time crunch. I cannot touch a camera because I'm already like covered in sticky glueness. So we're just going to try and rush and see if we can do it before everything cures and hardens and we run out of time. So sorry if it's not filmed the best in the next 5 minutes, but we will give it a go.
Don't forget that the rule is I do the physics, you do the cutting and sticking. So the things you guys probably can't see from this, you might be able to hear the slamming of the waves under the scoop here at the back of the boat, but also that means the whole boat is kind of jiggling around. We have got those extra lines on, but it means the boat's kind of an unusual movement. So the engine kind of wriggles around in this space as well. And it's not that we feel seasick, but it isn't the most comfortable feeling in the world to be stuck inside a fairly hot space. Okay, I think we are totally down.
Okay. Are we safe?
Yeah, we're fine, I think. I mean, we've moved maybe like this far closer to the wall, so we're like this far from the wall, but that's what fenders are for.
Yeah.
What's worse than all of this weather is wearing a waterproof jacket whilst you're covered in fiberglass.
Oh no! Ouchie scratchy!
Remember those things that the Egyptians had? It was like a sarcophagus full of spikes. I feel like that's what
Torture
someone's
chamber.
done to me.
Oh!
It's so sore.
Is the inside of your jacket fleece as well, so it like lulls you into a false sense of security?
I
You think,
hadn't
oh,
thought-
how comfy. No, stabby, stabby death.
I'm more worried that it's now got the fiberglass inside the jacket. I don't know. I just want to get out of it. It hurts. But we're safe. Weather's picked up a bit though, eh?
Yeah, that kicked up suddenly. We had just been looking at the forecast and I was expecting heavy rain this afternoon, but the bigger winds are supposed to be coming tomorrow. And then we looked at a different weather model and we were like, actually, maybe it's all going to be like kicking off now. And then tomorrow will be slightly easier. And then as we kind of finished our sentence, suddenly the big winds picked up and the rain arrived. So, yeah, this could be it.
So we were a little bit held up because that giant storm did arrive and it was pretty nasty. We hunkered down, we shut the doors, we discovered a few new leaks in the saloon, which wasn't great. Turns out the hatch above our bed leaks. That's a nice one. But as you can see, things are looking up. It is actually pretty sunny today. I don't know if we're in the eye of the storm or if we're just in a little bit of a lull. We do expect some rain probably around lunchtime today, but it's supposed to be like this all day, which means not only are we charging the batteries, but it means climbing down into the engine bay doesn't come with a risk of drowning, and we can actually get the engine secured. So if you haven't been following along, the port side is secure, it's all aligned, it's ready to go, we just have to plumb it in. And the starboard side is the one that we need to work on today. Okay, so what's the first task of the day?
So we need to install these risers, which have been the absolute bane of my existence for about a week now. So we needed to lift the engine up by like 5 centimeters. So this is 4 sets of marine ply, each 12 mil. So that gives us 48 mil. So close enough to 50. I then tried to use biaxial fiberglass cloth on it, which is the most annoying material in the world to work with. It's probably fine if it's like a big sheet or a big area you're
It
trying
just
to cover.
hates itself.
But
that's the problem. It doesn't want to exist.
It'll go like on a flat surface, but going around a corner or going on a skinny bit like this was just absolutely not happening.
Disintegrates.
And we've got biaxial on the top, but I gave up and I went back to like chop strand matting to get all the bits around the corners. And Ian's been like a day routing it out. So they now look lovely and beautiful. I might paint them up one day, but I don't want to have any more holdups. So yes, they are slightly tapered. And I think I have written on which side is which. Couldn't see the rain for a second, so panicked. Starboard engine, inboard base. Yeah, so this one is going to go this side underneath the engine here. So we're going to lift the engine, pop down some polyester resin, and then glue this on top and lower the engine to like hold it in place while it cures, and then we'll come back in like an hour and do the other one.
So part of the fun of this is that there's a time allowance, which we don't really know, but this stuff will go off and go rock hard and essentially be useless if we don't get this on time.
We should have plenty of time. We should have like 20 minutes.
Well,
but I always get nervous at this stage because I did admittedly forget how much hardener to put in today. So I put in 3 mil. Think that's what I did the other day.
But the last time we did this was building these things up and it was curing in like 15 seconds.
Yeah, that was a riot. It's a little bit colder and more humid today with all the rain, so hopefully that buys us some time.
That makes sense. Swell's building up.
Oh my goodness! The engine is swinging wildly.
Sorry. Yeah, so this is one of the issues we've got. It's because we're currently we're the wrong way around. Let's just put it that way. We're facing downstream. I don't know how to describe it. The swell and the general waves are hitting the back steps, not the bows, which is unusual for a boat because usually it'll face the direction of any oncoming swell and wind. And so, because we're in the sugar scoops, we have to leave the door open. And if a big boat goes past or one decent wave comes along, basically we have a small saltwater shower comes in here, floods us out and covers everything in saltwater, which we don't want. So we've been getting away with it so far, but it's not great. One riser in.
All right, ready to drop the engine. I mean, lower very steadily and slowly.
Maybe I'll put this one in first.
Oh, that would be good,
Just so that it doesn't, sit lopsided though. We're in.
All right, leave that
For a bit.
45 minutes and I'll do it again.
Okay, so I have to share something I just found quite funny and also quite dangerous. I was kind of like, it's really weird. We're getting loads of water up on the scoops this morning, which we don't normally get. The scoops seem kind of low. And more recently, they felt kind of out the water. So that's really odd. Maybe we're just facing the water the wrong way, as I said earlier. And then I remembered we had a fairly large storm last night and the last couple of days. And I forgot to take the bung out the dinghy. It ain't meant to look like that.
Oh my goodness.
Slight oops.
How are our davits not ripping right through our deck
That's
right
gotta
now?
be seriously heavy. Seriously heavy.
Oh
So
my goodness, bung out.
I'm gonna pull the bung. Oops. You've always wanted a paddling pool.
Oh my word. That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's really helping.
Nothing to see here. Do you want a bath?
Yeah, it's probably quite warm. All right, dinghy's drained. First riser is almost cured. We just have to stick the second one on now.
So the last leg, the riser I should call it, it's still a little bit jelly-like. So what you've done this time, you've added more hardener, which it's not an exact science.
No, with I think with polyester resin you can get away with playing with the levels of hardener a little bit more than with epoxy. So because it's a bit colder today and because it's a bit more humid with the rain, it's not setting as quickly. So I've added a bit more hardener and hopefully that will be fine.
That's the theory.
All a little bit kind of guessworky, which I don't love.
Well, it just means moving quickly.
Exactly. Well, the resin should have cured by now. We were just going to wait 1 hour and then carry on with the project. And then another tropical depression came through, one that nobody was expecting. We had 40 knot winds for like 4 hours straight. The swell got really crazy and one wave actually kind of dumped in through the engine bay whilst we were still in there. So we called it at that point. We've waited out the afternoon. It's now like 4:30 and we're just gonna determinedly work on this until it is done. So we just need to like line up where the engine mounts are going to go. So basically we're going to lift the engine slightly so that we can jiggle the feet around. Very professional. And we basically just want to get it far enough back in the engine bay that the coupling will join together. So this is roughly the distance that we've got in the other engine bay, so we're going to roughly aim for there. So we need to move the whole engine forward by about 2 centimetres and get all of the mounts central, or as central as possible as we can, on the new engine beds, and then we can mark up and drill the holes.
Now that we've managed to do that lift and we've moved the whole engine forward to get it closer to the prop shaft where we want it to rest, that should mean that the props are the same distance outside of the boat on both sides. I'm not sure they used to be, so this is an improvement. So now we're going to just take a pencil, mark up all of the holes, and we drill all the holes next. And that's going to be a mission. The front ones are fine, the back ones you're going to see. It's harder work.
So we're using like different size drill bits, starting with a 6mm and trying to work our way up to 12mm holes for these bolts to fit in. And it is slow going. Some of them just go through nice and easily, but as we're getting to the larger sizes, particularly at the back, there are these, they must be like a stainless steel plate embedded in the fiberglass. Ian just drilled out one of the holes over on this side and we heard a clunk, and then it was really easy. So I don't know if we're going through like the back of a nut or an old bolt or something and it fell out, but the ones at the back are not cooperating, and we're getting very bored and tired of this now, and we'd really love it if the drill helped us. We have actually snapped off one drill bit in a hole, but that is just a problem we're going to deal with later. Well, we won't pretend it was easy, but it's done.
That's been an absolute mission. We got some HSS bits and they worked well on the other engine bay, but on this one,
they were just done.
Yeah, I think they were just blunt. I tried to sharpen them, I probably made them more blunt. And then we decided part of the problem was that our drill, which I don't even know where our drill is anymore, but it's not really made for fine drilling. It's more of a smashy, makey, holy type drill.
Your favourite?
Yeah, well, it's been working really well for the last 3 years. But when you want to run a drill bit really slowly, it doesn't really do slow. It does sort of stopped or really fast. So we eventually decided to buckle, and we asked a guy we found a number for called Boris.
I think so.
Yeah, we think his name is Boris, but it's not Russian Boris. It's like Boris, the Frenchman. Anyway, he turned up with, ironically, still a Makita, which is the make of the drills we have, but it was like the next model up, and it was very precise. So you could like set the trigger depth and it would just stay at this constant pace no matter how hard you were pushing. And that worked okay, but was still looking bad. And we mentioned it to him saying, oh, forget it, we're going to have to go buy new drill bits. Then he came back with 3 carbide drill bits. Now, these are not particularly cheap drill bits, but they work.
So we spent like 2 full days trying to drill through this stainless steel plate embedded in the fiberglass of the engine beds. And then when we had the new drill and the new drill bits, it probably took us less than an hour to get the final 6 holes drilled. So yes, we're feeling slightly tired, I was going to say defeated, but we're not anymore.
We're absolutely
We're
not.
exhausted, you in particular, because I've done very little to help in this situation. We can now bolt the engine to the engine beds, but it's completely encased inside a void, so we can't reach the bottom to put a nut on. So we're going to have to somehow work out a way to drill holes in the side to get in to put nuts on.
Okay, honestly, it's kind of unbelievable we've made it to this point.
Yeah, we managed to like drill out the big access holes, but you can't get your hand in there. So what we've done is we've just put some tape around the spanner.
Highly technical solution to this.
Pumped the nut inside so it sticks to the tape and it can't fall out.
Careful, they have been known to fall out.
I lost one. And then we'll just poke that in the hole, try and like hoopla onto the bolt.
We're using that technical term, hoopla. We decided it earlier when we were testing that we could actually reach the bolts, that we had to be able to hoopla with the spanner. But essentially it's blindly positioning a nut onto the threads of the bolt.
And then just tighten this up on the top and it'll go.
That's how they do it in the F1. I have seen it in the F1 pit stops.
Exactly.
That's how it goes. Has she got the last one?
Yes!
Okay.
Well, we have a slight confession because we went on really late last night and then got really sleepy and so didn't quite finish the job and decided to take a pause. But last little bit this morning, we are very, very nearly there. So to align the engine to the prop shaft, we've got all of the 8 bolts in, but in the engine mount, it's like an oval shape rather than a circle. So although the bolt is in, we can still kind of lift and wiggle the engine slightly, a little bit, to try and get it as close as possible.
That's the theory. Just lift 300 kilos and knock it around a little bit.
Just 1 millimetre this way, please.
Exactly. So to do that, we've got the feeler gauges. These are the really fine pieces of metal that you got in there. Yeah, these guys, this little Swiss Army knife, is full of like different thicknesses of metal, and they go down to like stupidly thin.
Like bendy paper thin.
That is still metal.
Yeah.
Basically, they each have a different value on them in millimeters. So, like, they go from 1 millimeter down to 0.001. I can't remember. Down to very, very thin. And the better we get at this, the smaller the gauge should be, and we'll just feel it touching each side of the coupling. And that means that if it's the same feel on both sides, we're level. Everything's straight.
This bit is wider and this bit is narrower, but this line seems to line up with the center bolt here. So we're going to try and move the back of the engine over this way and see if it will line up. So we need to use the chain hoist to lift it slightly. It is still bolted to the floor, but they're loose enough that we can hopefully sort of go pudunk and move it.
I padunked.
Oh, you did padunk. Did you padunk it to the right place?
I don't know. Okay, so you won't have seen this, but we actually took a pause and we had a chat with the guys over at Nanni, Australia. So Peter over there has been incredibly helpful at every stage of this, but we kind of feel bad because we call him up and we're like, hey, Peter, we don't really know what we're doing. And then he is really kind and helpful and just steps us through the process and checks that we haven't done anything too stupid yet. So thank you, Peter. But basically he said, yeah, we're doing it right. You have to kind of just manipulate the engine using the hoists, swing it until the left and right is good. Then we can start focusing on the up and down, if you like, the balance of the joint between the prop shaft and the coupling in a vertical sense.
So maybe this is actually the perfect project for us because we just lifted the engine and tried to move it a tiny bit like this and the whole thing just like moved where we weren't expecting it to go. So we put it down just to test. And it sort of ended up quite nicely. So a bit of luck and hope and just doing the same thing over and over again and seeing if something changes.
Monkeys,
might work.
Monkeys, typewriters.
That's us!
Okay, so a bunch of wiggling and dropping and nudging and tweaking, and we think we've got the left to right sorted. We actually ended up lifting the back of the engine and the front of the engine, so we had to kind of sugar it into place. However, by our rudimentary measuring skills, we reckon we're within about, I reckon, 0.5 millimetre on the coupling itself. And now Brownie is going to work with the feeler gauges and check the sides.
So it feels like it's really close. I've got 0.2 of a millimetre and it seems to be the same on both sides, but the flex coupling has bolt holes in, so every so often the end of this just pokes into a massive void and I'm like, oh no, there's a huge space in here. So it's quite difficult to know when you're being accurate. I think it's 1/10 of a millimetre different. It's close, and it's annoying knowing that it's close and not perfect, but I don't know how you're supposed to get 1/10 of a millimetre divided by two sides. Okay, so it's 0.15 of a millimetre difference. How are you supposed to lift an engine?
0.15 of a millimetre.
Less than 0.15 of a millimetre, 0.007 of a millimetre and turn it round.
Okay, we're getting a little bit irrationally excited right now because we think we might have actually managed the left to right alignment.
I think I'm going to call it. So I read online, this may be incorrect, that for every inch in diameter the outside of your coupling is, so ours is 4 inches, you're allowed like an offset of 0.004 millimetres.
0.004, yeah.
Sorry. Ours is 4 inches, so times that by 4, it'd be 0.016 millimetres. Now, we go down to 0.01, so it's about that. That's smaller than...
0.02, somewhere in between the two of those, and we're good, right?
Yeah, and I would say that's what we are. It's as accurate as we can make it.
Is that offset on each side, or is that divided by 2?
It's the difference between the two sides.
Oh, okay, the difference between the two.
Yeah.
Okay.
So somehow, lifting your engine and wiggling it and plonking it down, if you do it enough times, it kind of ends up right. Now, there's no guarantee because we now have to do the uppy-downy bit and then spin it around 180 and see if it still stays in one place. But we could be onto something.
We're almost there.
All right, we've called it. We've now tightened up those bolts on the engine mounts, so we just now can adjust the sort of forward and back tilty motion, which is a lot more controlled, and therefore I like it. So we're going to use the feeler gauge to like measure the alignment at the front again, and then we just sort of undo or do up bolts on the vertical part of the mount, and it sort of walks the engine up and down. So the gap was bigger at the top than the bottom of the coupling, so we are lowering these front bits, and the whole engine should kind of tilt like that, and then it should line up. So with everything aligned, we're on to the very, very final stage.
We're so close. So I'm now just quickly putting in by hand the bolts that hold the shaft coupling to the flex coupling, which connects to the gearbox. So we're in the last stages now.
Come on!
I think. It's been a long one. All right.
The big reveal.
At last, here we go. This is it, what we've been waiting for. Well, almost. We're going to start it up sometime, but check this out.
It's so beautiful!
Hang on. I hereby present to one gracious and wonderful, very worthwhile, Blue Nanni engine. May it live long, prosper, and voyage across many seas. Any words?
No, I was going to do the fanfare.
Look at that bad boy.
Woo!
It's so blue.
Oh, a little bit of dust. But other than the dust, it's so blue.
Manufacturing dust, it's fine.
We did it! We've got not just one engine, there is another one in the other engine bay, I promise you. 2 engines in Indy.
So
They're
good.
not going anywhere.
Aligned, coupled to the shaft. We just need to do the plumbing next, and then we can fire these bad boys up.
We can go. Good job. I am a wizard.
You're a wizard, Bryony. I don't do Harry Potter references.
Love a Harry Potter. I did, however, just go to start the next one without putting a nut on, so that was short-lived.
Oh, invisible nut.